Texas. My name's Chris. I'm the head chef here. You imported me from America to do real barbecue. Actually, American and Irish both been here for years. Barbecue is a passion for me. It's fun for me. And after being to 3 Irish barbecues, I decided that somebody needed to do it correctly here. I hope you don't take offense to that, but I've been barbecuing since I was 8. A certified chef since I was 22, I'm 55 now, so that's a lot of time behind the grill. Okay. I've developed all kinds of from-scratch barbecue recipes. If you give me a grill, I've catered a wedding for 300 people off a grill like this at a remote location. And it's not just ribs and burgers and that. It's legs and lamb. It's just about anything you can think of. Whole salmons, I've poached on them. Any heat source is great for cooking. Now, I'm officially on my holidays, so I haven't memorized my notes, so I'm going to read a little bit, so you'll have to bear with me for that. But today we're going to show you a few things that we do here, a few tricks for you at home. We're going to make a barbecue sauce, a quick and easy barbecue sauce that works for you. I have ribs coming out of the smoker, and then I've done non-smoked ribs, so you can see how the difference is, plus how you can do them at home. We're going to make Gravlax, which is another way of curing. It's a curing of fish, but it's also, you can grill that and smoke it after it's been cured. We're going to talk about rubs. We're going to show you how we make our pastrami here. And for everybody, there's a tablet here, put your name on it, and whoever, and your contact details, whoever can guess the most of these spices in our pastrami cure can win a 20-euro gift certificate tonight. So I'll pass that around, and you guys can look at that and just fill out the pads on there, all right? And don't hesitate to put your fingers in it. I may need it back from you in a second.
Sorry.
All right, now here at Paris, Texas, we have one of the very few smokers, smoking ovens in the country. We're probably the only smoking restaurant in the Southeast. We imported one from America. It is not your traditional, what you see with the side burning box on it. It's actually computerized and electronic. It takes all the worry out of it, and I can smoke overnight without having to come in at 2 o'clock in the morning, change the actions, and worry about the place being on fire. What we smoke with is organic apple wood, and Irish hard turf. Okay, the black, hard, really hard turf. This little bit here will do 60 kilos of ribs or 80 kilos of pulled pork. Because it's controlled smoke. Most of the smoking that was done in our great-grandfather's days was done for preservation. So that was a very long smoking process, and the rooms that were built for it. Okay, sorry?
Just speak up.
Oh, I think I'm speaking loud now. All right. Anyway, our grandfathers used to get a big room, hang things in it, and they would just keep that smoke going for day after day. They were preserving for the slow months for food. They were preserving after they did the harvest and after they did the butchering. Either salt curing, drying, or smoking were the only preservation techniques they had. Nowadays, we smoke more for fun, and we cure more for flavor and texture. But if you do these things on your home, you'll find that the shelf life on these items is 2 to 3 weeks longer than any fresh food that you'll have, especially if it's done correctly. Now, if you'll let me get back to what I was doing here with the things. Okay. If you cure it, it dates back to ancient times. In fact, Neolithic man first discovered that the meat that was hanging closer to the chimney hole in his teepee or cave or whatever was drier, more flavorful, and lasted longer. And then sometime in around 3500 BC in Mesopotamia, they realized that if you threw the fish in the salt, that it dried them and they lasted longer, and then they would sun dry them. Somewhere along the line, these two cultures met, and a few salt licks, natural salt licks in the wooded areas, and people started salting their food to preserve it, and then they would smoke it to give it some flavor and to add some texture and some tenderness to it. The thing about smoke is, it is only a surface antimicrobial, antibacterial, anti-rancidity thing. Salt has to get into the inside fats. The good thing about smoke is it seals the outside, so you really don't have any oxygen going into the fats on the inside. The fattier the product, the more salt or smoke you need to keep it from going rancid as it is in the old ones. Now, we don't have to worry about that here because we smoke every 2 to 3 days each one of our products because we go through that much. The oven holds about 80 kilos and we'll do that about every 2 to 3 days of each product that we have. Now, I think you're all used to salted fish and salted hams, heavily salted hams. I don't know about you guys, but that's just too much salt for me. I soak it or I boil it beforehand, and I change that water several times to get that out of there. Now, you can counter that in a cure with sugar. Sugar in itself doesn't cure the food. It does add flavor. It does counter the sodium concentrates in the food. But sugar is what bacteria feed on. So you have to have a good balance. So nowadays, most of the things that you can't hardly even taste the sugar in anything but maybe maple-cured rashers or any of the sugar-cured grillable meats, like the porks that they do, and the sausage meats that grind from cured meats. Now, in the 1800s, they discovered that saltpeter, which is sodium nitrate, added to salt, kept the color. Well, in the 1960s, they found out that sodium nitrates are linked to most digestive cancers. So you can get pretty colored foods if you put the nitrates in there, but we use no nitrates here. So you'll find that some of our smoked foods are a little more gray than you would anticipate. Like our pastrami, it could be bright red, like you get that lovely picture of pastrami in America. But honestly, it's not worth the nitrates. And actually, if you don't have a degree in food chemistry, I wouldn't be playing with nitrates at all. Very dangerous. You can oversaturate the meat. You can get into other foods. The more it's saturated, and the more you heat it, the more it breaks down and gets into your own tissues. So we use no nitrates here. I try to avoid those any chemicals at all. Now we're going to start off. We're going to flip around a little bit, so you got to follow me because we're going to try to do everything in a quick manner here. But some of the curing techniques that you've probably heard of, and marination techniques. Now, a marinade is basically a wet cure, but marinades were developed to tenderize rough cuts of meat or to add flavors to things that didn't really have flavor. But marinades can also be a cure if they're salt or acid, or they have some kind of enzyme action to them, such as a yogurt or papaya, which has a protease enzyme in it that dissolves protein and will tenderize that. And an example of a quick marinade cure for something to eat raw would be ceviche, where you take raw scallops and you put the citrus and the mango and the tomato in there, and you're going to put lemon juice in there. And between the citrus and the enzymatic action, it quick cooks the scallops, though they've never touched heat. So it's a non-heat forming way of doing it. Another way of curing to cook is Gravlax. Okay, everybody know what Gravlax is? All right. Well, the Swedish, it's kind of their patent on things. I do things a little different. First of all, this isn't salmon. This is glorious, fresh caught goat's bridge trout. And it was a keeper if it had a head and tail on there. He was a big one. Anyway, I cured this 2 days ago, and I'm going to show you how to do it. But we're just going to open it up here, just to get a look at it fresh out. And if you look at the sheen under there, that sheen is the cooked, now cooked with the salt, the sugar, and the lime that's in there. Now the Swedish, they don't use lime, they just use dill, salt, and sugar. And they use more sugar than they do salt. Now, I was raised in French restaurants, and the French use more salt than sugar, but they also put the citrus in. You can also add black pepper in there and get a nice little black pepper snap off of it. What we're going to do later is I'm going to slice a little bit of this for you to try, and we're going to grill one of these just to see what the difference is. So we're going to start off very simply. Get your salmon fillets. I'm not going to wipe this, so you'll have to excuse me. You use about a half tablespoon per side per half kilo of fish. This is Malden sea salt. It's coarse. It's a very dry flavor. Part of the curing process is to pull the moisture up, so you don't want a real wet salt. You'll find a lot of the sea salts that you get, they're in clumps already, they're high humidity. You want a dry sea salt or a dry sodium chloride, a dry kosher salt. Then this is just standard sugar. Okay? You can use maple syrup or maple sugar or whatever you want, but for the color that you want on the fish, you don't want that to stain the fish at all. For just about every recipe for salmon, you use about an ounce of dill. Mostly because it really gets on the surface. Now, the classic recipes, the non-Swiss ones say lime. I like all the citrus. And the reason I leave the rind on is because the oils are better for it than the vinegars with the citric acid that's in it. So I would throw just a couple of pieces. It'll give a little bit of a different flavor profile throughout the fish. We do the same thing on the other side. I would do the same thing, put the two together, you wrap it really tight with cling film, and you put it under a very light weight. You turn it about every 6 hours for a day and a half to 2 days. And that's basically all Gravlax is. You can do that at home anytime you want. It's a lovely thing to put in your sauté pasta dishes, or just as a spread with cream cheese and capers with a bagel, which is a very American way of doing it. Put that to the side. In about 2 minutes we're going to have some ribs coming out here. I'll get started on that.
If you leave it longer than 2 days,
Oh, it'll be grand.
it doesn't.
It'll be grand, yeah. It'll take more of the liquid out. It'll be a drier product. Yeah, it can be. What I would normally do is take it off in 2 days and then wrap it. Okay, and it'll last a week refrigerated easy. Okay, now if you wanted to dry it or grill it, you know, or smoke it, obviously it'll last longer or it can be eaten quicker and whatever. What else with that? Now, how's that spice mix going over there? Everybody got guesses in? All right. Well, if you just want to put them in this tray, we'll or hand them to me forward. I'll take the one. A couple other techniques that go along with smoking is barbecuing, and those are rubbing. Okay. Now, rubs are any mixture of herbs, spices, dried fruits, nuts, anything that imparts flavor. Now, you can rub before you roast. You can rub while it's on the grill. You can rub and leave it in, and if you increase the salt concentrate, it's a cure. And if you put sugar in there, it's a flavored cure. And we do a little bit of all that with all the foods we use here in Paris, Texas. All right, so how we make our pastrami here is a classical pastrami recipe, except we do not use gristle. I use a basic housekeeper's cut. One reason for that is it's end-to-end usable. Brisket has fat veins all the way through it. With the amount that we go through, we have to have a separate station just in carving and cleaning brisket all day long. Brisket is a lovely meat, and we do serve it here. But this works for us for our smoked beef, our pastrami sandwiches, and whatever else. Now, what I have over here, I'll tell you exactly what's going on with that.
Sorry, how different is pastrami to what we know as corned beef?
Corned beef is something we're going to discuss about at the end there, because people are telling me that corned beef isn't Irish. So I did a history lesson on it. And it was the last thing I was going to finish with. Corned beef is actually only salt cured beef. Pastrami has all those herbs and spices in it. Okay? And it's smoked. Corned beef is not smoked. It's steamed. Okay? So it's only salt cured and steamed. Or wet roasted, which you can do in an oven with a pan of water, or in one of our high-tech computerized combi ovens, which have a percentage of liquid that I can add to the environment and keep things cooking. Now, this has been curing for I had a pan to drain into, but you can't see the final. You see the color change. Okay? Now, that doesn't go all the way through it. It goes an inch and a half in there, and no oxygen, no rancidity, no souring, and you get the flavoring. Now this is the marinade that's made with those spices that are over there. And for one of these items, there's 900 grams of salt and 650 grams of sugar, along with those seasonings, fresh garlic and fresh ginger. We boil it, we chill it down, we drop these in there for 3 to 4 days depending on their size. If I get to the standard size, which is a little bit smaller than this, it's 3 days. But anything over 3.5 kilos, it takes an extra day to get more cured in the inside. The health inspector's here. The HO officer was supposed to be here with the glass, but she wants to set specs for this. She's a little concerned over 4 days with any kind of curing in a non-food tech kind of shop. She's been in here 100 times and she eats here 3 times a month, so I think we're okay with that. Anyway, the cure ends up looking rather dark because of the boiling of the spices and that. It has very high salt content. The sweetness is in there, and it's actually the sugar that is changing the color in the process there. Now, we've done some pretty good timing today, so by the magic of TV, we smoked beef this morning. We're smoking ribs now. After we pull that from the brine, we let it dry just a little bit because we don't need too much moisture in the cavity. The smoker is already plenty in there. Then we coat it with toasted coriander and 3 different kinds of peppercorns that are ground. We rub it all over it. It goes right into the smoker. We use a probe. We smoke it for roughly 3 hours at 250 degrees until we get about a good medium to medium rare in here. Because I was going to use this as a demo and I didn't want to sit in it, this is cooked a little bit more. There's left in there, but you can all be able to get a nice taste of this right out of the smoker. Cure all the way around the edges of it. It gives it a very nice little flavor. And I'll be cutting some of that for us. Trying to figure out where the ribs are because that alarm should go on. She's supposed to bring me out ribs 8 minutes ago. Yes. She's coming right now. Beautiful. Now you all get taste of this at the end, all right? That's what I'm talking about. Right here. Thank you so much. All right, now. Everybody talks about baby back ribs. Not me. Not enough meat. Not enough size. I use loin ribs. Okay, your butcher can do that for you. We do about a 600 gram rack. That's a good meal for a big man. It's enough to split for 2 people. Okay, or to combo up with some chicken or something. This is an 11 bone loin rack. And we get them from either Pat Mullins or one of our other butcher suppliers. Pat Mullins supplies most of our pork here on Priory Street. Now, rubbing is what we were talking about. As I said, rubbing can be a cure, a flavor element, but in smoking, rubbing puts on what we call a bark. Now, smoking will give an outer crust, but if you put a rub on there, that outer crust looks like tree bark. More bark, more people are happy with their smoked product. Right? So we make a dry mix. It's almost a Cajun seasoning, right? But it's been varied a little bit, and we use this as our base seasoning. But the rub for the ribs and the pork, we add dark brown sugar, Chinese 5-spice, and we add sage to it because sage and pork go together incredibly. So rubbing is a real simple thing to do. I mean, you just rub. That's what they mean by it. You just rub it on there. Depending on how much seasoning you like, you can put a little or not too much. So when we're rubbing these, we don't really rub the other side because we're rubbing 60 or 80 kilos. We just stack them like that. And then when they come, we start setting them up in the rack, they're rubbed on both sides. So put that to the side. And give me 1 second. I have to put something on the grill for us. Anybody here like pork belly? Yeah. Okay. I have 2 different styles of pork belly here. One is smoked and rubbed. The other one is cured. Now it's warm cured, so we're going to get these sizzling for us so we can try these later. Now let's talk a little bit about barbecue and barbecue equipment. Okay? This is a deluxe version of a barbecue. The one I have at home is just small. The barbecue, you can just rotate things around as long as you have a top tray and an oven to hold things. You can do 50 people off a smaller barbecue very easily. And I've done it many a time. So my recommendations on a barbecue, 65,000 BTUs, that's all you need. You don't need 120, you don't need 200,000, 65,000. 45 will do it, but it won't handle a big load. So that, a shelf above it, and a side burner, that's all you need. You can pick up one of those for like 125 instead of spending the 500 or 600 that you've got here. The other thing about barbecuing, try to keep one side lower than the other so you can rotate food around. Now, all on high, you're going to have a hell of a time trying to get that burnt thing over here where you're trying to get this burnt thing over there. Okay? And you get a lot of flame up. 2 things you need for the barbecue, and I don't have one of them out here for some dumb reason. It's a bottle of water, a spray bottle, so you can spray down the flames. And a bottle of oil. Because you don't want to soak anything you put in the grill on oil. A, it'll rancify and turn black and get that heavily charred smoke on it. B, you're a lot more in control of your oil with a spray bottle. We're going to grill a salmon fillet and a steak later. All right, let's go back now. We have nice ribs here. We're going to do a quick barbecue sauce, okay? And anybody that leaves me their email, I will give you this recipe. The quickest barbecue sauce. This barbecue sauce actually got me a job in a restaurant, okay? And it's my mom's recipe, actually. Vinegar. If you like vinegary sauce, put more in. If you don't, put vinegar in. Chopped onions. You can puree them if you want, and we may puree it, but just chopped onions. I like a lot of onions. You don't have to saute them, they're going to get hot in there. Ketchup. Heinz is my favorite. Chef's vinegar is already way too vinegary, so if the chef's ketchup is too vinegary and too thin as far as I'm concerned, you can make that work. You just have to back off the vinegar. All right? Dark brown sugar. You can use light brown sugar, you can use plain sugar, depending on whether you like a sweet sauce or a sweet and sour sauce. That's the basic ingredients of a barbecue sauce right there. And what we do here, what I do at home is I sprinkle any of the peppers and chilies in there and maybe a little oregano. Here we use the Cajun seasoning. You can buy Cajun seasoning very easily. Right? Put that on the stove. Chip.
You want to spray button for a squeeze button?
No, I'm not on fire, so I'm not worried about it. I'm okay. They need it back there more than I need it out here. I have the grill on low. All right, so we're going to let that cook away for us. As soon as that gets up to temperature, the one secret ingredient that got me my chef's job was I put preserves in my barbecue sauce. Okay? Any flavor you want. You want apple, get apple preserves. You want berry, berry preserves. And I told the chef, yeah, I make my barbecue sauce with grape jelly, which is grape jam to you guys. And he says, you know what, I make mine there too, but when did you start? So I got one of my best jobs ever by just saying that to the chef. So once that's up to heat, we'll put some jam in there. Simplest stuff in the world, spread it right on. Now, for us here, we have a very complicated process and a very complicated barbecue sauce. We have 2 of them that we do. We make a base sauce, and we make, from that base sauce, we make any flavored sauce we want to. Our house barbecue sauce is an apple barbecue sauce. It has whole apples pureed in it and organic apple syrup from High Bank Orchards. And I've got to give them kudos. It's one of the best things I've ever tasted. It's also the sauce for our fried ice cream. So if you're going to stay around and eat, you've got to try the fried ice cream. It's rotten. The other one is a real true Southwestern one, which is a Chipotle barbecue sauce. Anybody know what Chipotle is? No, Chipotle Chipotle is a smoked fried jalapeno. And we puree chipotle right into our base barbecue sauce. Changes the dynamics of the thing completely. It is a little bit spicier. It is a little smokier than the apple, which is for your more average palate. From that, we go to our ribs now. Right? You've already seen how the rubber rib. Clean up a little bit of mess here before we go any further. With charcoal, I would go wood. I would rather use wood than charcoal. So, if you get dry wood.
There are some of these easy dried charcoals and you don't have to wait so long.
Yeah, I know. The problem is there's chemicals in it. Okay?
So that's
If you're every time I barbecue with charcoal, I use an electric charcoal starter. I don't want any of that fuel near my food, in my grill, anywhere. So if you have an electric charcoal starter, that works. And I would start a charcoal fire and then I would feed chunks of wood like this onto it and I would barbecue that. But you can also put chunks of wood in here, in a tray, soak them first, right? You can put them in a little thinner tray of this, right over your heat, and you'll get the smoke. And you can keep the lid closed, and you can smoke barbecue. So as far as me, charcoal to me is, it's rather passive, you know. But it's not a bother to use it. I think it just takes too long. I like to go over because I season my food ahead of time. I either smoke it ahead of time. I have it ready to go. It's rubbed and seasoned. And the charcoal doesn't really give that much of a difference in flavor. Smoking gives a difference in flavor. Hardwood gives a difference in flavor. You can get some of the flavor charcoals. They'll give you a difference in flavor, but those flavors don't come from natural things. So I'm a little bit skeptical of those, and I've actually never used them, but I've heard of them. Now, we're going to go to the ribs. We're going to get the barbecue sauce and stir first. And we're going to turn over the, all right, barbecue tools. Number one tool for a barbecue person is not a pair of tongs. It is a good brush. Okay? If your grill ain't clean, you're not barbecuing. So you have to season your grill and brush it down all the time. The next best thing, a pair of tongs. Because a pair of tongs, you can flip anything. You don't have to have a burner flipper if you're burgers, you have a pair of tongs. Now, things like fish, tongs don't work. Fish only pick up half the fish most of the time because of the striations. So then you need yourself a good spatula. I have two different sizes. Okay, this would be for little items, this would be for big fat items. Here is the difference between some different techniques for doing your ribs. You don't have a smoker, how do you get your ribs cooked before you put them on the grill? Because honestly, you cannot cook a rib from raw on a grill successfully. It'll be tough in some spots, rare in other spots, burnt in other spots. The best thing to do is put it over a pan of water. You don't have any seasonings, just a little salt and pepper. And you put it in there for about 2.5 hours at 180 covered. Okay? Now, if you still don't have a smoker, but you have some adventure and you made a rub, you do the same thing, but rub it and put it over there. But now, if you have a smoker, you smoked it and rubbed it, and you get a totally different product. Find the bone. And you can see on the outside all that bark. Okay? So, we're going to put those on the grill and have those after class as soon as we have our barbecue sauce. Just getting close. Once the sugar has melted into that, then you want to add your jam. Sorry, I think it's out, not little.
We're going to have a talk, Chris.
Nice thing about the jelly, it has pectins in it. It makes a beautiful glaze. Bad thing about that glaze is it sticks to everything and it will stick to your grill and it will burn quick. So you have to be a little bit more you don't like too much jelly, or you don't want to have to worry about that much, you can just, see, all we got in here is just a little stew of all that stuff. If you give me 1 second, I have a handy blender. I'll just get a little smoother so we can use it. We can put more spice in it. You can see that's why you have all these nice little pumps. All right. Now, we're going to put these bad boys on the grill. Now, I always start my ribs downside down. Okay. Get that hot because that's the side you're going to show up. And then when you turn it over, you're finishing the thing to come off the grill. So far, my lesson. All right, we're going to let that cook for a minute, and all right, now all that char griller is going there. I'm going to turn one side up. Steaks and fish need a hot grill. Okay, the colder the grill, the more they stick, and the longer they take to cook. A piece of fish, general rule of thumb, 5 minutes to the inch. Okay, thickness, and it's done. That's medium. A lot of people don't like medium fish, but that is the Epicurean way to cook fish, just medium. So you're looking for well done is about 7 to 7.5 minutes for an inch thick piece. Steak, they say the same thing. It's not true. Depends on the fat modeling, the density, whether you've marinated it, whether it's been pinned. It just depends on everything. So what we have here is one of our beautiful hand-cut 9-ounce sirloins that we serve here. And we have a piece of our salmon fillet that's farm-raised in the North Atlantic here. And this is where my handy-dandy oil bottle comes in because I don't want a lot of oil on my meats. Now, all we do here is salt and pepper. You don't need anything else. Grilled steak. I'm trying to get the grilled texture and flavor to it. Anytime you're going to do steak or fish, you want to brush wipe with the towel that you don't wipe very much. Okay, get the black off because you don't want that on there. Season with oil. You'll start a fire if you're not judicious with that. And wipe again. Let that get extra hot right here. If you want to create a hot spot in your grill, but you don't want to turn it up, put somebody cast iron or metal over it, you'll get that area extra hot. So say you're cooking chicken over here that's nearly done, and you want to put the steaks on. You can't turn it up because your chicken fat will burn or you'll get a fire or whatever. Put a tray over the area you want your other stuff on. It'll get it hot. No, it doesn't draw toward it. It doesn't allow it to escape into the air. So it's just it's heating the ferrules on the grill to be a hotter temperature. So I'm gonna let that go for a second, and I can entertain any questions right now because I'm gonna cut a little food for y'all, and then we're gonna garnish up the. We're going to garnish up the ribs and get those passed around. Yes, a nice sharp knife is the best thing for me. As I said, this was just out of the smoker today. We started this process on Tuesday, with the curing and then drying, and then we let it rub overnight. It was too dumb to get napkins, so I'm sorry about that. Thank you, Pam. We can start this here, and if we run out, just use your fingers. Everybody's a friend here. My fingers are all over it, so we stay here. There's a little bit of me in everything we cook. Now, the other thing with tongs, a long pair and a short pair. When that thing is cranking, you certainly don't want your hand over it. Now, there's a lot of fancy gizmos they have. This is for fish and vegetables. I've never actually used one, but I've seen them used, and I thought they were pretty cool. But to me, I just cut my vegetables thick and big enough to put on there oil and salt and pepper. Other gizmos are a big fork. Now, I would never buy that fork. It has no weight to it. This fork weighs the same as that. And it can hold a big piece of meat. Say this was on the grill. I picked that up with that fork. That fork's just going to bend. This is a much better fork. And it's a carbon fork, so it does everything. As I said, we talked about spatulas. A brush. Now, we normally ladle our sauce on here. Brushing really works. But you have to do a lot of it.
Runs here.
Now, I don't oversauce the underside, but we're going to put this and finish it on the top, having a lot more sauce. We have to pick these up somehow.
Does the housekeeper's colour have a different name in the States?
I round. I have round, yes. Yes. And your butcher will know that name. Okay? It's only your supermarkets that call it the housekeeper's cut. And normally they have it chunked for roast. Do you ever notice how perfectly round they are? And to me, it's 100% usable. It's a very versatile piece of meat. Yep. It works. Did everybody get some for any cup morning? Did everybody get some? Okay, Grant.
I'll take the rest of it home if you're not doing it.
All right, so now on the top, since we only have a little on the bottom, we can be much more generous on the top. And then we get this beautiful flow off the ribs. I'm also going to throw when the smoked one's unsauced, so you can check that. Excuse me. Now we're going to start the steak. Make sure it has enough oil on it. As soon as you put a steak on the grill, if you don't hear it sizzle, take it off and get the grill powder. Okay? That's not even as loud as I would like that. I can tell by the noise the steak makes whether the grill's too hot or how done it is. A well-done steak makes no noise. There's no fat or moisture left. So you'll hear, as the sound goes down, as a professional grill chef, you'll understand my grill's quiet, it's getting way too done. You know, it needs to be making some noise for you. Now the thing is, we got both sides of those racks super hot, while the other side just had a little bit on there. These are ready to come off and eat. So everybody have napkins? Okay, I'm gonna start a few plates around here. All right. You have to excuse me, it takes a second to cut these. So that's our homemade barbecue sauce. So, got a lovely glaze to it. This is going to be a little messy. Alright, the ones on top are smoked, the ones on the bottom are just steamed and rubbed. And I'm going to be sending a plate this way so don't feel left out. On the steak, if you want to get those lovely grill marks on it, right? You flip the steak over. You don't just turn it and make your grill marks on one side, because what happens is, as you cook that steak, as the heat hits it, it tightens on the bottom. If you turn it, it tightens more. It rips it open and the juices come out of it. So you want to sear it on each side for about the same amount of time. It's got nice little grill marks on it. Not in the same spot. That spot's clear. We're going to go for a medium rare here. I don't know how many of you like your steaks medium rare, but there's a simple way to tell how steaks are cooked. You open up your hand, touch the bottom of your thumb like that, right? That's rare. Bend your thumb in, that's medium rare. Bend your fingers in, that's medium. Make a fist, that's well done. Touch the steak, feels like that. That's how it's done. And that's how they teach chefs at chef school to cook steaks. Feel your hand. Simplest thing in the world and it works. How are those ribs? Everybody getting some? Do I need a couple more? Yeah, didn't get any. You didn't get any. Oh, all right. I can show you. There's something on the back for you, or grab one more if you want. All right. We asked earlier about corned beef, right? Everybody thinks corned beef and cabbage. In America, we think it's Irish. Everybody in Ireland tells me we don't do corned beef and cabbage. So I got a little confused, so I did some historical research on this. And I've read about 20 articles on it, but I got a good little paragraph from Wikipedia, actually. It said, although corned beef is almost a forgotten flavor in Ireland, it is an extremely popular and important part of the culture, especially from 1685 to 1825, when Cork City, #1 industry for Cork City for those 240 years, 140 years, was corned beef for all the navies of the world. Cork City was the last port of call before ships going across the ocean would stop, and they would get corned beef from Cork City. It is still actually more popular probably down in Cork City than it is anywhere else in Ireland. And on Paddy's Day in America, corned beef and cabbage is, well, you go to the local bar and eat it, but in some places it's very nice. Corned beef, all you do is hyper salt it in a salt brine for 4 or 5 days, and you steam it. And it is absolutely lovely. You take those juices, you cook your cabbage in it, do your champ potatoes if you want, and I don't know what sauce was here. I don't think we serve the sauce other than the cabbage juice, but I believe parsley sauce works very well with it also. It's a very simple dish. You can find it. And historically, the beef that was slaughtered and corned before the winter was served with the first fresh spring cabbage at Easter, which probably some Yank saw over here right around Paddy's Day. Easter fell early that year, and he thought, oh, that's the national dish for St. Patrick's Day. in Ireland, and that's what we're going to do from now on. We just spread all the things. People ask me about that. All right, now stay cooking. Now we have our marks. Put a piece of fish on. If you bear with me, this is the last bit of it. I will cut some Gravlax while this is going. Now for the fish, have a nice firm spatula with a good edge to it so you can get under it. You're not leaving half the fish under. Okay? Got some Gravlax here. Oh, a piece of Gravlax. I've never done that. Already has plenty of salt. Trout you can do on a hot grill or a medium grill. It's a very thin and forgiving fish. The key is not to get it stuck. And I can tell you already, just by the sound of it, it'll be sticky. Gravlax is normally served cut very thin on a plate with capers, onions, and some kind of crostini or cracker. I really can't set that up for you here, so we're just going to. Since it slides around, you need to give it something to work on. And you need a very sharp knife. The rule of thumb is you should see the blade of the knife through the Gravlax. That's how thick it should be. About 2 minutes we'll have steak.
What gave you the idea to start up kind of a smokehouse here? It's an unusual, I think, for the Irish palate, you know, the smoky flavour.
It was more the owner and his general manager closed this place down for renovations.
Yeah.
And somebody told me they were looking to do barbecue. And so I came up and met with them and they said, really, you're an American barbecue chef? I said, yep. I said, do you ever think about smoking? Oh, we would love to do smoking. We don't know how to do it. And I said, well, it's actually pretty easy if you have the right tools. He said, well, we can't, you know, with the insurance, with the wood and all that. I said, no, there are ovens in America that are made industrial for big operations that need very little. They're electric. They don't have to have any special insurance. They don't have to be fire. They cook and hold, so you can. We do 80 kilos of pulled pork or pork shoulder at the time. That's a 12-hour process. I mean, if I had a smoke box smoker, I'd have been over here 4 times in the middle of the night, shoveling it out, making sure it was right. And in the morning, I would still have to check the product because there was no control. Or I'd have to babysit it all night. I don't know how many of you. That's not a fire. Now, perfectly marked, both sides, medium rare. How many of you people don't like medium rare? I'll throw a couple pieces on the side grill here so they can be more done. the best way to taste a steak is medium rare. People that eat blue steaks, they don't know what they're missing because they don't actually get the full flavor of the steak. Now this is cured and smoked pork belly. We can start some of this going around. Excuse me, using the same knife for everything. Just start to Gravlax a little bit. Just don't hesitate to use your fingers. Pork belly. Just a easy. So busy in the restaurant, I'd have an assistant down here. Thanks for speaking. You taste the sugar and the salt and the dill in it and the citrus. That was a fresh trout on Friday. This is cured and smoked pork belly. Help yourself to that. You guys are making me hungry. I haven't tasted any of this. This is how I believe you should eat a steak. I know there's a lot of difference of opinion here in Ireland, so. These are just basic grilled salt and pepper, just grilled, and the difference in the flavor from just baking it in the oven or whatever. That fish just falls right apart, 5 minutes to the inch. We're looking at perfect medium on the inside. If you don't like medium fish, all the outside thinner pieces are well done. Okay? There's a char grilled, hand cut, hand butchered, dry aged sirloin, and a piece of.
You didn't marinate your steak at all?
Absolutely not.
Do you? Which way?
I would marinate a tougher cut, like a flank steak. Okay? Or if I was going to cut a steak out of one of these raw eye rounds, I would poke a fork through that from both sides because there's not enough fat in it. And then I would give it some kind of oily marinade that also had some kind of sugar, had some kind of enzyme in it, which would be papaya or kiwi or mango, to break that down a little bit. Put citrus on it and pickle it. It's not, people say to put vinegar on it, they're pickling it. Use, you can put it in yogurt, and absolutely it'll tenderize it to death, but the outer edge of it will be mush. Okay, but it will tenderize. So I would do a fruit marinade of that with some oil in it, maybe a little bit of wine, some garlic, some bacon, and the salt and pepper. Not a lot of salt. Salt toughens. It doesn't tenderize. Salt takes the moisture out, so if you already have a lean piece of meat, if you oversalt it, you've just made it tougher. You might as well cut the bottom of your shoe off. Now, there's one last Gravlax off the grill, just because we said we could.
Tell me about your wings. How would you smoke the wings?
I would smoke the wings, but you don't really need to. And besides that, you drop them in a fryer to crisp them. Right? So if you're going to smoke, you put it in the fryer, you're taking all the smoke off. Yeah. Now I've done smoked wings, and actually for December, Our whole month of December, we're going to be doing smoked turkey wings with cranberry hot sauce. Okay, so that's our December special. We're also doing smoked turkey for Thanksgiving. And for Christmas, we're going to do smoked turkey and house smoked ham. And we're also going to do deep fried turkey, which is a legend in the South. Well, I got to tell you, the first time I was cooking, I was 28 years old. I went to a girlfriend's house. She was from Mississippi. We went to Grandma's. Grandma was about 82 years old, and she was pottering around, and I'm like, wow, this is some feast. Where's the turkey? I go out in the shed, and there's a 35-pound turkey, and it's raw. We're a half hour from dinner, and I'm going, oh my God, Grandma's lost the plot, you know? She forgot to put the turkey in. Like I'm running into the turkey, she said, oh, perfect, follow me. I'm like, Grandma, what are we doing here? Come down the stairs, go around back. She's got a 55-gallon drum over this butane oyster stove. It's just steaming. She said, spit that pot. Spit that pot. She said, it's done. I dropped that turkey in there. And I'm like, yeah, you're right, man. Crazy, man. Put that turkey in there. 25 minutes later, we pulled it out. The best turkey dinner ever had in my life. We ate at 4 o'clock, just like she said we were going to. I could not believe it. Cooking for 25 years and couldn't understand how to
Deep fry the whole thing.
the whole thing in a big drum like this. Now we're gonna get skin wrapped breasts. They're gonna take the breast lobes off for us, but they're gonna leave the skin and wrap it for us because our fryers aren't big enough for a turkey. We're just gonna do the breast. We're gonna smoke the whole turkey.
Tell me what oil are you going to use?
I use soy. Peanut would be my next favorite, but with peanut allergies, I can't do anything for people. So soy to me is the best thing. Now, here's something I've never tried, so I'm taking this. Oh, that worked. That is the grilled Gravlax, and I like it. Let's see that on our menu too. I really think that is about all I've got for you folks. So, do you have any other questions?
Can you talk about the turkey deep frying? Is that not southern fried chicken?
No, southern fried chicken is like the Colonel. It's the Colonel's KFC. It's flour. It's not breaded. It's flour with a bunch of different herbs and seasonings in it. They roll it in buttermilk and egg, and they flash fry it. And yeah, that's for southern fried chicken. Any other questions? Did we get everybody's response to the spice thing? Do I have your papers for that? Do you have contact? Is it Mark? You put that barbecue sauce recipe. Anybody else got their sheets for us?
I mean, different parts of the states you have different marinades and different barbecue sauces.
Absolutely. North is more molasses, sweet. The South is more vinegar and heat. And in between is all kinds of spectrums of it. I try to go for what I think the general palate would like, not just the southerner, not the northerner. And if you care to, there are spoons here, and our 2 barbecue sauces are here, and you can try them. I find them as a pretty good intermediate and good for the Irish palate also. Because I gotta tell you, the vinegar ones with the heat, they just overwhelm whatever they're on. If you go down in Texas, that's what they're doing to steer on the thing with vinegar, tomato, and chili, and that's it. And that's barbecue beef. It's good, but I think there's better flavor profiles than that. Thank you so much. Do you want you want the barbecue sauce recipe? Somebody get my pen away. Now I can't give you ours because we're going to start bottling it and it's a secret sauce. Is that my pen? Get up there. Anybody else got anything? Do you want to hand that back? Everybody happy with the flavors? those foods? Would you like just salt, pepper, and oil on a steak? Absolutely. Yeah. And there's no smoke, there's no charcoal. Okay. It's just a well-cleaned grill, nice piece of
I
meat.
wish I had my husband. He likes smoke.
That was that Alex. Jim, you were wishing that fell. Aaron here manages little. Did I get on a little bit?
Is there a
You did that by psychokinesis.